I just today watched the new Dr. Stephen Greer documentary, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. So for those of you who don't know what CE5 is, human-initiated contact.
Inquire within.
Inquire within. Inquire within.
Reveal the UFO cover-up.
Revealing the entire UFO cover-up. Okay, they're gonna reveal it one song at a time. You dig?
They're sending all the fans who sign up for a mailing list a stack of real fucking government UFO files. It's powerful when you stay active and civil. And don't give up. Don't give up on making the life that you want to see.
For your safety, put on the tinfoil hat.
So, Close Encounters of the first kind. The Close Encounters 1 through 3 were made by, or not made, but written out by Dr. J. Allen Hynek, and he did this for the government. They asked him to do this. So Close Encounters of the First Kind is seeing a craft, a UFO, a UAP, whatever you want to call them. Close Encounters of the Second Kind is seeing physical evidence left behind from a craft. So that could be crop circles, that could be electromagnetic readings, or whatever readable energy signal left behind from where someone saw a craft take off or whatever. The third kind is seeing a being. This could be a more third-dimensional humanoid ET looking thing. This could be some sort of interdimensional entity. It could be a combination of all of it. And then Jacques Vallée, probably said that name wrong. He's who kind of wrote out what Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind is, and that is abduction. And that could be either physically in a dream state, it could be, there's different ways to be abducted. And then Dr. Stephen Greer has Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, human-initiated contact. And it is just that. It is a human, or a group of humans, initiating contact with some extraterrestrials. Sounds ridiculous, like people are doing a bunch of mushrooms, but hear me out. I've never done that on mushrooms. I've done it sober countless times, and so have tens of thousands of people who are actively doing that every week around the whole world. Like, you'd be surprised to see how big the CE5 movement is. And I think that is a key distinction of Dr. Greer's newest documentary compared to his prior two. So in his first documentary, Sirius, but spelt like the star, it revolved a lot around the Atacama humanoid that his team had come across and the genetic testing. But that documentary also went really deep into why there's a UFO cover-up. Who are the key players in the UFO cover-up? And why is that important? If the masses were aware, or thought, because a lot are aware, but just took the thought to this next level of how are they getting here? How is it that a craft can go light years and light years, not run out of whatever energy or fuel source it has? Oh, big oil gets angry. And then you look at the financial ties of big oil to the big banks, from the big banks to the media to the pharmaceutical, how all this crazy corrupt stuff actually financially ties together. And simply the masses waking up to the whole UFO phenomena would blow the whole lid off of the fossil fuel industry. So if you are one of those hippies out there protesting oil and oil spills and all this and that, you should really listen up and get into the UFO side of things, because it's a really big role in all this. And so that is a lot of what documentary 1 goes into, and it does cover CE5, what it is, why it's important, the science behind it, and all that. Then documentary number 2, Unacknowledged. That goes a lot deeper into the evidence of the UFO cover-up and the testimony of the highest level government officials that you could ever imagine coming forward and telling you, yeah, I was part of covering all this stuff up, and this lie, and really big prominent people have been part of the cover-up. And a lot of times that's just from them being quiet, not necessarily lying or giving disinformation. And now this documentary, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, this is the one that goes so much deeper into what CE5 is, why it's important, the science behind consciousness, and then to show you how in modern science this is a measurable sort of thing. And I think that's really important, because there's going to be so many skeptics that watch this documentary, as they should, and as people should be super critical of all this stuff, because it sounds crazy as hell. I sound like a crazy person. It's okay though, there's lots of me. And so that is one of the key distinctions of this documentary, is how deep it goes into the science of consciousness, and also how much deeper it goes into why it's so important that people get involved with this. This should be the biggest movement of our generation, because this is like the one movement that could end all movements, including bowel movements, because I'm pretty sure extraterrestrials have some like solid technology to ease up on some of our digestive problems. That's a theory. I don't have evidence. So there's been tons of studies on how the observer, a conscious mind, affects physical reality. That's part of modern quantum sciences. So things like random number generators. You can look into all the big major universities have done extensive studies into, you can have a random number generator going through ones and zeros. But if the observer, and the observer doesn't have to physically be there, the observer can be on the moon just thinking about it. But whatever number you're focusing on more, whether that be 1 or 0, and let's say this runs through 1 million tests, it's going to basically be 50-50. But if someone is focusing on 1, then it's not going to be a 50-50. It's going to be a very measurable impact on that. And then there's also the split mirror test that you can look. That one's a trippy one. A really cool study that I had never heard about that was talked about in this documentary was going into how not even like a person or an animal, a plant, damn conscious plants. There's been a study, I forget which university did it. I've only watched this documentary once, okay? I haven't dug too deep into this part. They put a plant in a room, and they had a light that would rotate to all 4 corners. And it should equally rotate to all 4 corners. But over time, the light starts spending more time in the corner that has the plant. So somehow, just the consciousness of this plant has an effect on making the light stay on it more. And the Professor Michio Makaku, I butchered that name, I'm sure, he did the study on water molecules where someone's focusing on anger and they freeze the water and all of it's just jagged when you zoom in on it. And then they have someone focus on love and it's beautiful snowflake looking things. So that's the micro. The macro is you can talk to aliens, okay? That's all there is to it. And so, well, I guess before we jump that deep, remote viewing. Remote viewing is another scientifically, undisputably proven thing where that is seeing things with your mind. In the Cold War, both the US government and the Russian government hired and trained psychic spies to get into a meditative state and literally be able to read and write off codes that are in a safe in an underground concrete bunker. The mind can do some crazy ass stuff, and the evidence and the science is now just mounting up, and it's coming from all of the mainstream credible places that people would want it to come from for them to feel comfortable believing it. And so then with Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, it's taking those concepts of consciousness and all minds in the universe being one, the interconnectiveness of thought and mind, and putting out an intention. And then UFOs pop up. It's that simple. And tens of thousands of people are doing this and getting video evidence of it and getting infrared evidence of it. All the different light spectrums. Just last summer, I got invited out from my dear friend Costa Macris and went out to Mount Shasta with a film crew. Had craziest camera equipment I've ever seen, and every night we went out and did these, and we got tons of video of UFOs. Granted, a lot of it satellites, a lot of it meteors, a lot of it space junk, but there's easy ways to clarify those from a UFO sighting. Space junk and satellites go on a straight trajectory. UFOs can zigzag. UFOs can do pulses that are timed up with when you wanting it to do that. Like, there was one of the nights that we were out there, we had this, well, it was every night, just about every night at the exact same time in the exact same spot, there was this craft that would appear, and it would start going across the sky, doing these periodic pulses. So the first night we're all stoked about it. The second night we're skeptical about it, because why did it show up at the exact same time in the exact same place? We're like, oh, okay, maybe it's something where that's part of its orbit. And then it happened the third night. And so we started putting it more to the test of having the group put out an intent of, okay, I want it to flash now. Boom. I want it to flash now. Boom. Other crafts. It's going one way. Change direction. Boom. Change direction. No mushrooms involved, I promise you. The producer of this CE5 documentary had a very similar experience. I think this was his first sighting as to my first big sighting. And his video of it, it's crystal clear video. It's nuts. Big craft shows up in the sky. Big glowing craft. And then out of it, a bunch of smaller crafts come out and start flying around. But with his, it was just more and more just started coming out. And with my first big sighting, I was in my backyard, and the difference was it was this big red craft popped up, but then 3 in a triangular shape. These 3 white lights came out, so I thought it was one triangular shaped craft, but then they all split off and started doing their own crazy stuff. And then all of a sudden, because I lived near a bunch of military bases, some helicopters or jets started zooming towards it, and then they go back into the red one disappears. Very similar thing happened to him. And it's, I kind of went off on a tangent, didn't I? Why is this important? Because there's a lot in the military industrial complex, in the banking cartels, in the oil industry, that want us to be afraid of extraterrestrials and want to stage a war, potentially. It would make sense. We're running out of enemies here on Earth, and war is the biggest thing for money for them. All of them, the media, the oil industry, the military industrial complex, the banks. And have you seen Reagan's speech to the UN, where he talks to the entire United Nations about how we need to prepare for an alien threat and weaponize outer space? Well, now with Space Force, we are weaponizing outer space. And if extraterrestrials wanted to take us out, I'm sure they would have long before or right when we started having nukes and atom bombs and actual powerful weapons. And there's an insane amount of evidence, especially from the Cold War era, of UFOs disarming nuclear facilities. The entire facility, not just the nukes. And the US thought it was the Russians thought it was the US. And there's a lot of radar charts of this happening. There's plenty of insiders and whistleblowers and people that were at these facilities that have come forward to confirm this. It's a lot of evidence. It's really trippy. And then you got Blink-182's Tom DeLonge going out making his To the Stars Academy with all these pretty corrupt individuals that have been part of different military operations, CIA, FBI, whatever parts of the government they're in. They've got their own dirty laundry that's wide open for people to research. And they're pushing this huge fear narrative that we should be afraid of the extraterrestrials. And out of the tens of thousands of people who are on a weekly basis going out and initiating contact, and a lot of times this contact goes far beyond just seeing a light in the sky. And no one doing this, at least to my knowledge, has ever had an actual bad experience. No one doing this has randomly gotten abducted and probed. There's actually a lot of people from the government that have come forward saying that a lot of the bad negative abductions are actually military operations in reverse engineered craft. What the heck? So it's important that people unify. Try to make contact. Try to see a UFO, because it'll, for one, blow your mind. 2, you'll realize when you have your own sighting that's not just on YouTube, your own personal sighting, then you'll see we don't need fossil fuels. You'll see, wow, we don't need this whole economic system that we have. There's some people up there zipping around interdimensionally faster than the speed of light, having the time of their damn life. We can be doing that. But there's these systems that are preventing that from happening and wanting it to be covered up. And every single one of us has the power to use the tools of our own mind, our own consciousness, to connect and have an actual sighting sober. Whew. And so if more people do that, and start putting the pieces together about what that means about our whole system, our whole paradigm on Earth, then people can start coming together more to bring down that stuff. And how do you bring it down? You bring the UFOs down, man. It's that simple. So, yeah, that's my rant about the new Dr. Greer documentary, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. I think I went kind of all over the place on this one. Didn't really write out a game plan of what topics to hit. But, you know, it's been about 6 months or so since I've done a video. In other news, if you've made it this far, thank you. Consider going to inquirewithinofficial.com or ufo.video, getting some sweet UFO merch. Each purchase of $10 or more will plant 10 trees with my partnership with Trees to the Future. If you purchase my new album, it's only $5. 10 trees will be planted. Or if you just subscribe to Inquire Within on Spotify or Apple Music, every 1,000 streams will plant a tree. So you can plant trees for free just by listening to some music. Thank you all. And I'll be doing another video and article soon on Chad Kalick's documentary, The Phantom Rider. That one, another essential piece to this whole UFO puzzle. Goodbye.
It's the same.